Lights, who are you and where have you come from?
Wow, what a generic question. My name is Lights. I am a competitive gamer for majority of my life, and I really want to get into game design. And Forge gave me an opportunity to kind of come in here and use my years of competitive experience competing at a tier one level to build out a game and build out some levels and see where we can take it from here. So, looking forward to the opportunity to learn and grow with this amazing community and see where it takes us.
Awesome, yeah. What would you say so far has been the biggest challenge in trying to get the patch being where you want the patch to be? Because certainly when we've been looking at it from sort of the back uh, side of things, it's very hard to get patches right. And we know that, everyone knows that here. Anyone who's played a game at any time knows it's extremely hard. But what would you say is the hardest about coming into the Forge, seeing what's like the guns, the balancing of guns, or the economy? What do you think is the hardest part so far?
It's actually kind of a multi-pronged response, I'd say. So when you look at balancing, it's hard because there isn't really any game out there that has a perfectly balanced game. There's always going to be something that the community will find that's overpowered. So finding that perfect balance is definitely a unique challenge, and finding something that everyone's okay with as well. When we came into the latest series of patches this summer, we wanted to push the game towards a slightly different direction where it wasn't so one-dimensional, especially on the hybrid landscape of, playing with pistol for a couple rounds and going straight to the AK and M4 and making it feel like there was only 3 or 4 guns in the game, and actually expanding people's skill sets with multiple guns and having variety to that. So finding a way to incorporate that has been a big challenge because it's a lot of numbers. It's not just adjusting a recoil or adjusting this or that. You're having to make it to where progression feels natural in terms of how you're gaining economy to buy the weapons, and then making it to where the guns actually feel like their progression too. So your pistols feel like starter weapons, and then your middle tier, ARs feel like middle tier weapons, and then your upper tier weapons actually feel like upper tier, and creating that diversity, but not making it so spread apart from each other to where, if I have a mid tier versus a high tier, I'm just going to lose. Keeping it even enough to give people opportunity, but far enough to where it's still important to get to those later stages of the game and secure those more powerful weapons, before your enemy to be able to kind of push the advantage.
That's an absolutely perfect response. Yeah, that's certainly something that I was interested in from when someone from sort of outside the project. I've only ever known Forge as it was 2 years ago. I never really thought about it in that way. How you have SMGs, the middle ground, and then AKs. The end game. It was never really like that, as you said. It was AKs second round. So yeah, that's very well responded. Thanks for that. Now we have a question from our own Lou. He wants to know what kind of gun game you would like first to have in a casual game mode.
If you mean, do we want to incorporate a traditional kind of gun game into something like this? I think that'd be a really cool idea. And it's almost, kind of an approach what we were looking for making in hybrid, right? Was actually tiering out through the weapons. So incorporating something like that into the actual, game mode of deathmatch or whatever, something that's definitely a possibility.
Yep, absolutely. At this point, and we always say we're keeping our options open. There's no closed-mindedness in the future of this project in the game. It's really just about what is the best going forward and what the priorities are. And with that being said, B-Wiz is asking, when you die, will you lose your gun? Is that ever going to be an option?
It's something that we've definitely talked about a lot of times within our game. I think that a lot of people, especially when you see our economy, you definitely think of Counter Strike, right? And that's one of the core aspects of that game. If we were to ever take that route, obviously a lot of things would need to change. The way the economy works would be the biggest thing. To, you have to balance it out to where you're earning enough to maybe buy, a certain set of weapons every time. So it'd definitely be a big overhaul. I think in the current iteration and vision that we have right now, it's not a leading option to make you lose your guns when you die. I think we like the ability to say that, once you earn a gun or you hit a checkpoint or a progress bar, we'll call it, you keep that and you're not reset every single time just because, you got caught by somebody camping in a corner or you got caught off guard and maybe you just straight up lost the gunfight because that happens too, right? You're not going to go unkillable the entire game. So I think allowing people to still remain as powerful as they were in the previous round without having to reinvest into it is kind of a unique aspect that games like Call of Duty capitalize on. So it's just finding a balance for all that, still maintaining a progression without, having everyone feel like scared to push their advantage, right? Because we do want to remain fast paced and we don't want people to have to worry about, oh, I can't attempt this 1v3 because I don't want to lose my gun and I don't have a lot of money. We want people to have the ability to make those crazy 1v3 plays in the middle of a tournament because they don't have those worries of losing that weapon. I think it's a really nice aspect of it.
Yeah, that's a great answer again, and I think I'd also like to elaborate the point that obviously that's a thing that Counter-Strike and Valorant have been doing since the beginning, and while we're never going to say that we want to stop copying people because we're not. We're forging our own path, as it were. I think the novelty, the uniqueness of us keeping the guns, and as Light said, allowing for people to do crazy 1v3s or whatever, whereas in CSGO you'll see them hide in a corner for a minute and a half trying to save that gun, just completely changes the dynamic of the speed and the intensity of the game that we want to build. So Demeno says it's been a very busy week. Everyone's been working very hard, which we have. What can we expect now? What are going to be the next steps? What's the next steps for you, Lights? What's your, without spoiling too much, what's the next steps in your ideas?
Yeah, so I think on a immediate playing ground, we'll say that with the economy and the weapons changing in the direction that they have over the past couple of months, I think I'll be the first to say that it's not quite where we want it to be. And as I alluded to earlier, gun balance is something that you'll never really find the perfect balance. So it's always a constant, game of going back and forth on different things. So getting the economy and the weapons kind of fine-tuned and closer and closer and closer towards that perfect sweet spot is obviously the goal. And then from there, it'll be looking at what features are still able to be implemented within Unreal Engine 4. And then from there, implementing anything that we think we can, and then things that we determine as UE5, working towards that. So it's tough because, we're not balancing just one game right now. With us doing UE5 in the background and trying to add a bunch of stuff into that, it almost feels like I'm doing, 2 games at once. So it definitely is a lot, and it's definitely a challenge, but I'm excited to be doing it.
Right, I never thought about that, the way that we're sort of doing it at the moment, as you said. It does feel like you're doing 2 games at once, especially with you doing the GDD, the game design document, for the new version in the Unreal Engine 5, while trying to fix stuff in this game. Yeah, it's a bit crazy. Bewitch, when it comes to the actual team that's building the Unreal Engine 5, basically new game, we can't say who it is right now. They don't want us to share it. But I tell you, as soon as they do, as soon as there's some sort of, we want to extract a sort of partnership date or something, you guys will be the first to know, I promise. And on that note, I'm going to go back into a sort of question that I would like answered towards Lights, which is, what do you think will be the most exciting change in Unreal Engine 5? What will be... People will open it up that have played on Unreal 4, they'll go to Unreal 5, and what will they find the most shocking, do you think?
Oh, man. The tough question to answer because obviously there's a bunch of exciting changes that we're looking at implementing or already have started implementing and approved. And a lot of that is stuff that I really can't say a whole lot on. I am excited, to say that when we do open a game, it's not going to feel as weird as now opening a launcher going into a game, playing game, and it just closing on you. So that kind of user experience feels off. So I'm excited that we'll actually have, a proper working program. So that'll be super fun. Obviously, looking at different weapon stuff. Yeah, it's hard because there's a lot of things that I can't fully speak on, but just the way that
Yeah.
weapons work, we have a lot of exciting things kind of lined up for that too. So it will feel like a new game, and that is a challenge to make it something new and utilizing UE5 to its fullest potential while still trying to hang on to the roots and not go too far away, but not being afraid to say that maybe some things that we had in the current game just don't make sense anymore, and actually be able to evolve and constantly grow is kind of important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I did just throw you straight into the deep end there with sort of just saying, "Oh yeah, talk about stuff you can't talk about, please." But yeah, also I'd like to bring on the fact that there are things in Unreal Engine 4 that in the game at the moment that are hard coded and we cannot change, like the armor system and stuff. So when we come into the new engine in Unreal Engine 5, there will be things that have changed from the hard coded side that will be completely different from what they are right now. Just so people sort of get that into their heads as well. Um, Map design. You're very good at map design. People didn't know the current warehouse map that is on TDM was designed by Lights. He's very good at designing maps. So what do you think about this idea of sort of more flanking procedures, sort of maybe even more open-sided maps? Or do you think we'll sort of keep into this whole sort of warehouse like that you have at the moment?
Yeah, so there's obviously going to be a multitude of different designs that you can create for making maps. And for anyone who's interested, there's a ton of different research that people do on these topics. If you would search online, you can read along with a lot of this stuff. So obviously, I'm not going to do that for you guys because I don't want to bore you. And it is a lot of information that you can learn. But when you look at from a base level of how to design a map, and open versus more closed off is one of the initial topics that you'll go into. Open, you'll normally see towards casual based kind of stuff. So when you think of a casual game and you look at a game like we'll use Call of Duty as a perfect example, being one of the more popular games that has a casual and a competitive side. The casual maps for that are generally wide open fields and landscapes, where you have a lot of openness to them, and you can see a lot of different sight lines and really take in the area around you. Whereas when you look at competitive maps, and a good game for competitive maps is Counter-Strike, they are very maze-like and labyrinth-like. The angles are very limited, and the sight lines are very minimal as well, and you don't have to worry about 10 different angles looking at you. It allows you to approach it a little more linearly and create a tactic or a strategy to attack maybe the three different strategies that there could be on the map, and keep it a little more competitive.
Yeah, that's a great sort of way of looking at it. There's definitely a lot of stuff online. I've had a wee look myself, and as I said, I don't want to bore people, but if you guys want to have a research, and Miguel's asking about collaborations, I'm sure in the future there will be some sort of collab between community members making maps and us putting it in, maybe even some sort of map ownership idea, which we've talked about before, but we haven't really expanded on that yet. So there could be that kind of stuff in the future, but we don't have that planned yet. So I wouldn't put anything definitive on that. So I kind of misread what B Wiz was saying. He was talking about the spawn camping in TDM. What do you think is the best way of combating that?
Yeah, so I think that right now the biggest reason why we see spawn camping is because our spawns are very set. We have it currently designed in a way where it's just a box, and you spawn in the box and you walk away from the box. So once a team gets control, you spawn camp that box, and you just sit right in front of them and wait for them to come out. Uh, Even without a box style, you can look at games like Call of Duty that were famous for the respawn modes having spawn trapping, and it's basically the same thing. It's that they were spawning in a box, they just didn't have barriers around it. So it was an invisible box, I guess would be the proper way to word that. So finding a different approach to how we spawn on the map within game modes will be the number one way to approach spawn camping. It's less about map design. There definitely are different things within map design that you can do to alleviate the pressure a little bit of it, but a lot of spawn camping just comes down to the way the spawning system works.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to type there that even if you put 1,000 flanks or 1,000 ways out of spawn that are protected, then those entrances themselves will become camped, you know?
Correct.
So,
They all lead. It's like a tunnel system. It all leads to three main points or four or however many points there are. Right. All different roads lead to one road essentially.
yeah, exactly. And so the best way to combat that, like Light said, is fixing something in the actual game mechanics of spawning or something like that, rather than a map issue. So in the future, obviously, that will be done in Unreal Engine 5. And then maybe, perhaps something later on can be happening where we actually have like specific maps to do with like combating spawn camping, which the community can try and make, and then we can show them, oh, this is still how it's going to happen, so on, so on, so on. Yeah, so basically, we're definitely looking for somewhere to house our team. Obviously, there's different places around the world that have different pros and different cons. Used to be in Canada. At the moment, half of our staff are, not even in North America right now. We definitely have a lot of people in North America, as in the continent, including Canada and USA. But we still have a lot of people in Europe. We have like Kaifa General, who's our blockchain expert who lives in Germany. Have Dafo and myself who live in the UK. So at the moment, we're extremely spread out. And so we're just looking for somewhere where the pros outweigh the cons, and we can also perhaps work with the sort of the local gaming boards or councils or governments to try and get some money off them to help us proceed with making this amazing vision that we have into a reality. So, long story short, we are looking for somewhere, yeah. Other already talks about collaborations with other IPs in terms of gaming. So not skins or guilds and multi-chain. I will like another game. So he was thinking if you have a skin from our game, you could use that in a different game.
I would say that's not too much about the core game design that I'll discuss today. I will say that, of course, we are always welcome to different collaborations with other games and companies, and looking forward to what both parties can offer each other for stuff like that. But that comes down to more marketing, and I won't go too much into that right now.
Right, but certainly from a sort of game design point of view, it's definitely possible. It's definitely something that we want to look into. Yeah, and something that we will be looking into. Yeah, definitely. Again, it's finding the right group of people at the right time who want to share the same vision as us. So obviously at the moment, we wouldn't be able to sort of honeycomb anything with sort of extra payments or stuff like that. So it would have to be a group of people or a project that has the same vision as us moving forward and trying to get real games for people, not just these Web3 projects that are just there to get you to try and make some tokens and sell them for no real utility. We really want a game that is going to be the forefront of the project, and then the Web3 stuff at the back is basically like an added extra, right? So you play the Forge Arena, it's an amazing FPS, it's a 5v5, we're talking, massive land situations, and then in the background, the casual player earns some extra stuff with scrap, which then collectors will want to do to build different skins on their generators, and in the end, it all comes together. But again, the game is first, and I think that's the most important thing. And I think with bringing someone like Lights in to our group, that is going to be key, because his visions and his ideas so far have been amazing from what I've seen. And so hopefully that's what's going to really push us as a group, the backstage staff, really push us forward into making the best version of this game and project that we can. What are you telling these NFTs? Last time I heard NFTs that were games was CryptoZoo. Is there a set time frame for dev? Do we have a time frame, Lights, of which you're looking at to try and push forward for like maybe the next patch or the game releasing on UE5? What's your thoughts on that?
So I know that UE5 is probably the one that people really, really want to know about, and to not meme it any harder soon, TM. We're always just going as quick as we can, and of course we want to make the game as good as possible and explore different features and adding new things and making it, like I talked about earlier, using UE5's potential to the fullest. So it's tough because every day we might think of something else that we kind of want to add in, and then you have to kind of say, oh well, do we want that in the game right away? Can we maybe wait a little bit into UE5? So it's finding the proper balance for all that stuff, and between our team and just going as quick as we can. And we unfortunately we aren't the largest team in the world, but we're just going as quick as we can to try to get that out for you guys. But in terms of UE4 related patches, we don't have set timelines right now. We've been trying to just get things out when we can. We know, especially with the way that the economy and the weapon balance patches have been over the past couple months, that if we have things that we need to correct, we just want to get those corrected for you guys as fast as possible. So, but no set timelines, no.
That's perfect response. Yeah, it's quality over quantity, right? Doing everything right without pushing it too fast. We've certainly done that before Lights was around. There was definitely a thing of just getting stuff out for you guys. Like, it would be literally like, okay, we have an idea. That's a great idea. Let's go, push it. And then it would come up either subpar or perhaps there's parts missing that we should have thought about. So definitely with sort of Lights, but also other people like Yusuf that have been brought on, there's definitely a lot more focus on the quality aspect of what we're doing. There's no point in shoving out changes that do nothing. And if they do something, then it has to not be wrong.
Yeah, we're not just building a game anymore. We're trying to actually create something, and yes, on a very basic level, we are still a game, but we're trying to create something that can be invested in by a lot of people, that everyone wants to spend time on and play, and something that has a massive casual scene and has a competitive scene and something that people stream on Twitch and YouTube. So, I mean, obviously the easy way to say this is that we want success with our game, and that sounds natural, but some people, when you talk about smaller dev teams, that yeah, cool, if it hits 1 million players, that's awesome, but they realize they're just making the game for the experience and to make the game because it's what they love to do. But I think it's gone an extra step for us in that, like, yes, we do love making the game, and yes, we do think we can do a good job, but I think we're trying to actually design it in a way to where we're expecting a whole bunch of people, so that kind of raises the quality minimum requirement bar for us up a little bit. So yeah, it's like you said, quality is very important to us right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bewage again is coming in and saying he's worried that all these pro gamers are going to come in and he's not going to be able to make like much scrap. He's scared that he's not going to have that much fun with so many pro players coming around. And he understands that MMR is not set right now because we don't really have the matchmaking system. So how would you explain to more casual players, as it were, that it's going to still be as fun as it's always been?
Yeah, so obviously it's not fun to, load into a match and realize that you're about to go 0-30 this game. So we definitely are looking at developing systems to allow the casual player base to still have a fun time and allow the competitive players to still have a fun time. So it's definitely something that we are looking at from all angles and kind of approaching with that.
Yeah, so basically when it comes to the marketing strategy, we really haven't thought about a marketing strategy as such. because when it comes to pushing the game as it is now, like it's great to try and get people on board as early as we can, but until Unreal Engine 5, it's not really feasible to push it extremely hard, right? Also, as Yusuf said, it's more about a question more for sort of DAFO, for our CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. We're sort of focusing on game design right now with Lights, who is our game designer right now. So with that in mind, anyone got any sort of specific questions about the game design, the sort of aspects of what's going to come in the future? Or if you've got any questions yourselves about what's wrong with this gun? I want to use this gun more often. What's the best chance for doing this and stuff like that? Character skins. Are there going to be character skins?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of people love customization. I think that is no shock to anybody. So we are looking at, approaches that other games have done, but also unique ways to approach any sort of customization with that. So obviously we've gone with a traditional weapon skin that everyone else has, but we believe that there are other ways to allow people to express themselves and to customize their character in their own unique way. So there are a lot of different, body parts on our character model, and, a lot of different things that we have, planned and things that we're looking at, but I can't announce anything right now.
Yep. And one from our dear developer, Fear. He wants to know how you get inspired to build your maps.
Inspiration comes in many forms. Sometimes you're sitting in the shower, sometimes you're playing The Forge, and sometimes you're playing another game, and something kind of just clicks in your head, and you're like, "Wait, I just saw this on this," and then your mind just starts racing. I think if you are a creative person, someone that's musically gifted or artistic, I think you'll understand what I mean by this. That you just hear the right note, or you see the right color, or you see the right image, and it just sparks something, and it kind of just goes from there. There really isn't any other way to put it than that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I understand you, especially when it comes from stuff that you, as you said, you sort of seen from the past, and it's sort of everything blends in. You're like, wow, that's just perfect. That makes sense to me. Let's put it down and see what it looks like. And for maps like Warehouse, which you've done, it looks absolutely amazing, and it's so much fun and so quick to play, but also has the sort of long range down the middle, but you can flank on the sides and use different weapons like the shotgun, which I really enjoy at the moment. If someone would start something community inspired maps. Another great question from Fear. If someone wanted to start designing community inspired maps, would you have any recommendations of where to go to get started?
Yeah, so I think that when we get into the full release of the game, down the line with UE5, we definitely want people to create their own community-based maps and be able to showcase those within the game, whether through a community, server list, or maybe we see one that's just really, really good, blows out of the water, and we want to incorporate it into our game, so we get permission from you to do that. But that's something we obviously want you guys to be able to do, is create your own maps. Exactly how do you learn to do that? Obviously, you would need Unreal Engine 5 that you get from Epic Games. And then from there's YouTube tutorials, there's different articles on the web that you can read on exactly how to utilize all the tools. And then from there, it's just, practice. It's just going in there and building some walls and building a floor and starting with the basics and kind of expanding from there and just kind of seeing where it takes you. And then, like I said, with the whole inspiration, just developing a concept and drawing that on a piece of paper, and then actually turning that into a 3D model on your actual screen.
Perfect. Yeah, I definitely think there's going to be a lot that the community can do for not only like for us, but for themselves when Unreal Engine 5 comes out. There's going to be, as you said, there's going to be maps, there's going to be skins, there's going to be, who knows, there could be unlimited possibilities in the future when it comes to that kind of thing. And I will always feed back into the community, because that is our main goal, is that whatever you guys decide is best for the game, where you're making all these maps or whatever, we'll help you push them forward, and then in turn that will help us push the game even further into the perfect vision that we have. can we expect to see more game modes? Well, we've already kind of touched on that, Lights, with sort of casual game modes, but are there any any leaks or any ideas of what there could possibly be in the future?
No, nothing official. We're looking at a whole different range of possibilities. Obviously, with the Call of Duties and the Halos, there are standard kind of game modes that you see within an FPS, but looking at those titles, you also see game modes that are very unique to them. So we're looking at seeing if there's any game modes that we can create, as well as looking at any game modes that we see are very popular across the FPS genre and seeing if they make a good fit for us. I think that it's no secret that it'd be beneficial to have multiple game modes, but exactly what we're looking at incorporating or have already planned on incorporating or started to incorporate, I can't say at this time.
Awesome. And then Miguelito comes in with a question about the sound design. What does the game hold in the future of sound design, do you think?
Ooh, yeah. With UE5, we have a much different game, so the sound will be overhauled. We can look at things like the hit markers and the footsteps, and even the way that when a nade bounces off a wall, we can look at changing the sounds for that. So I expect the entire sound system to be overhauled for our game and seeing where it takes us from there.
Yeah, definitely. Again, UE5 is going to produce so many possibilities for us on our team that it really is going to be all hands on deck once that gets released. Going to a little snippet sneak peek. Could we ever expect sneak peeks or snippets of new map builds? Are you currently building a new map? Do you think you'll be wanting to build a new map soon?
If you're in reference to just through UE on the UE5 build of me designing a map, yeah, always be making different map concepts. Already have multiple map concepts. Some are done and some are still early production stages. In terms of them being arted out and leaked early, I think that we'll kind of follow what a lot of other game designers do, or game developers rather, where once they have the map in a suitable state, they kind of give you a little teaser or announcer about it before it comes in, and then from there it drops. But
yeah, I don't think we're planning on streaming anything that's going to be done at the back end of in creating anything sort of in the upcoming states of the game. No Minak used to. That's great. As I said, we're learning from our mistakes. But yeah, basically, as I keep saying, with Lights coming on and Yusuf coming on, there's a whole new productivity to the team. And it's really been great to see from my end. And I think with people like Lights, it's going to really push things in the right direction. And we can already see, we've had 2 patches trying to make the game more enjoyable on UE4 as it is. And I really cannot wait to see what happens on UE5, to be honest. With the amount of passion that everyone has, it's going to be fantastic for the actual project itself. We'll take a couple more questions. I hadn't actually decided if we're going to make this half an hour or a bit longer, but we'll take a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up. So make sure that the next couple of questions are good ones, guys. If you have any, if not, we can just round it up there. I'm just trying to think if I have any more questions for you. I do actually have one. There's been talks in the past that some maps actually have favorites in terms of so the blue team can get to midpoint slightly faster than the red team. Is that something that should be looked at competitively? Should it always be mirrored exactly, or is it okay having sort of difference on either side?
So I think that's a very interesting topic, and it's kind of not a straightforward answer, but I guess the opinionated version that I can give you from what I believe is map design can be done in a multitude of ways, and it is healthy to make not everything so evenly matched across the board. If you look at Warehouse, and I know that the community's only been able to play in a team deathmatch mode right now, but when we look at the search and destroy variation of it. There's going to be certain things that the blue team might be able to get to before the red and red before the blue, but it's done in a way to where what side might be strong on one side of the map, the other side of the map, they probably have a weakness. So it balances out over the course of the map. Yeah, I think that if you make everything even, the map gets kind of stale. But if you actually create areas where you're tilting into one favor, but you're not making it to where, blue team has all 3 areas of the map or all 10 areas of the map all in their favor, then that obviously creates imbalance. But tipping the scales in favor of one team and then spreading out to where both teams have those same number of advantages makes for kind of a unique and fun game experience.
Yeah, again, as you rightly said, it's sort of more of an opinionated look on the gaming side rather than an actual stated fact. I totally agree with you. The only competitive game I ever played was Team Fortress 2. I played that at quite a high level. And obviously it had attackers and defenders advantages and all different sort of sides of that thing. I really, truly believe that I think having some sort of differentiation in the maps themselves, like as you said, if it's just a copy-paste mirrored on each side for King of the Hill or whatever sort of style we're going for, it does become very stale very quick. Sort of pro teams, not even pro teams, just people who play the game a lot will find the perfect thing to do, the right time to do this and that, and it'll be sussed out pretty quick. But if you have sort of more differences on different maps, then people then will maybe find a thing to do better that time, or a better timing for a flash push or smokes and stuff like that. Yeah, with that being said, we'll wrap it up there. I've got to say thank you guys for coming to this. It's obviously the first one of hopefully will be many sort of AMA style, either still on Discord. We've talked about maybe starting doing stuff on Reddit like that, started talking about streaming it or stuff like that, but just trying to keep giving back to you guys in the community where you know what's going on. Lights made this very clear, so did Yusuf when they first joined, that communication is the key to keeping the community not only happy, but informed and knowing what the team is trying to do and is doing. And I think that's very, very good advice, and I think that's what we will be trying to do. This is scheduled at the moment as a monthly thing. If we get more interest, it could become a bi-weekly thing every 2 weeks, every fortnight. But we'll see how it goes. So I would just like to say thank you very much to Lights for coming and being the first and my guinea pig. So I've definitely learned a few things that I'm going to do in the future from this. Is there anything, last things you'd like to say, Lights?
No, not really. I mean, I appreciate everyone for coming out today, asking some great questions, and as Bassie said, that hopefully we'll be able to get a lot more of these in, and I'm sure I'll return in the future, especially as the community evolves and the game evolves. We'll have a lot more questions, I'm sure, developed from you guys, and you'll want more answers. So I think it's important to look at a lot of other games currently, and the way they interact with their community is very limited or non-existent. And when you don't listen to the community, that's when the majority of these games die. So being able to involve you guys and answer your questions and kind of give you some insight makes things a little easier from a development standpoint, because sometimes there's things that we want to do and we need your guys' help with, or maybe you don't understand why we want to do something, so you need to ask for hey, why did you do that, and then I can explain it, et cetera, et cetera. But these are definitely a great tool that I look forward to doing again.
Yeah, as I said, thank you very much for being the first. And we'll close it off there, guys. Thank you for coming. I will keep you up to date with the next one. As I said, it'll be scheduled right now for next month, so that'll be September, around the weekend, because that seems to be the most time that people have free right now. On the polls I did, people suggested Friday or Saturday, so around between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. UTC. So we'll definitely be looking to do it around that time next month. How am I treating people and staff? Yeah, Lights, how am I treating you?
Bassie is great. Thank you.
Thank you and good night.